99X and the Morning X, Barnes and Leslie. Fran, we're about to go to the Senate floor.
It's unbelievable. We've never had a senator on this show that I can recall.
About to go down there and talk serious TikTok business. But first, let's break it down. First, here's what's going on.
It doesn't work without the data.
And manipulating that algorithm can mean what kind of information you're going to see. And if you don't think that could be used as the most powerful propaganda tool ever, then I don't think you appreciate it.
In an election year.
In an election year. As a news source, literally half of young people in America get a lot of their news all from TikTok.
170 million Americans
are on it. And the idea, if you don't think the Chinese Communist Party can twist that algorithm to make it the news that they see reflective of their views, then I don't think you appreciate the nature of the threat.
And then you got these TikTokers losing their minds.
You know what's going down when you get this notification from TikTok? I'm sure you all just got it. I just did. You click on it and it says stop a TikTok ban. Congress is planning a total ban of TikTok. Speak up now before your government strips 170 million Americans of their constitutional right to free expression. This will damage millions of businesses, destroy the livelihoods of countless creators across the country, and deny artists an audience. Let Congress know what TikTok means for you and tell them to vote no.
And some think it's going nowhere, if you listen to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
I don't support a TikTok ban, and I have every confidence in the world that whatever the course of this legislation takes as it goes over to the Senate, that TikTok will remain available.
Okay, so now is where we get to the serious stuff, and actually, this would be the first senator to be on our show. Please welcome Senator John Ossoff. Good morning from Washington, D.C.
Good morning. Honored to join you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us, because I know you guys, and you especially, are very busy in session right now.
We are. I'm sitting in my office here in the Capitol now. We have several votes later today and continuing work in hopes of passing a bipartisan budget measure next week.
What?
All right, man.
This makes me feel important, Barnes.
Yeah, I know. All of a sudden, my head just started spinning and swelling. So we contacted you on a very important topic, which I'd love to get your opinion on, because as we've gone through and all the audio we just heard with the House passing this legislation to ban TikTok, and now it heads to the Senate, that would be you and your buddies. So what in the hell is going on? You can't take our cat videos away.
There are some serious national security and privacy issues associated with TikTok in particular. I'm going to dig deeper on the House legislation before arriving at a final judgment on it. The issues are basically as follows. TikTok is owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance. And China has a data law, a national security law that gives the Chinese government substantial access to data that is held by Chinese companies. And so the valid concern is, as TikTok is gathering huge amounts of data about Americans, to what extent does that put that data in the hands of the Chinese government, and what are the national security implications of that? And furthermore, to the extent the Chinese government has influence or control over ByteDance, could the Chinese government manipulate the information that's being shown to Americans to have an impact on public opinion here? Now, how we solve those problems is complicated. We need to be thoughtful about it, and I'm going to look carefully at the specific bill. But those are the issues that have been raised, and they're real issues.
Now, we know the president said he would sign the bill if it was passed. My question to you is, there are defenders, though, and what are the defenders saying?
Well, look, we need to make sure that this is the right way of addressing these issues, that it will, in fact, solve the problem rather than merely appearing to, and that in terms of the precedent it sets for targeting a specific service, a specific company like that it's appropriate. So, I'm going to research this in depth, continue to dive deep into both the underlying issue, the privacy and national security issues, and whether or not the bill as passed in the House is really the right way of addressing these concerns. Then you got the bigger picture, guys, with social media generally, not particular to TikTok, in terms of privacy issues and mental health issues, and the way that children are targeted on these platforms. And that requires a much broader set of policies, I think, to protect Americans' privacy and to protect children online.
Yeah, definitely a bigger swipe. We're talking to our senator from Georgia, John Ossoff, who is in Washington, D.C. about this whole TikTok thing. But like you said, it expands to all of social. And like we heard in that clip earlier, the talk of the algorithms. And I could see that. I could see how a long-term plan could get, whoever wanting to corrupt our system by manipulating the younger minds that are relying on these apps for news. We hear all of this talk now. It gets sent to Senate, but I see no definite on when will the Senate address this.
Yeah, there's not a date set when this might move toward the Senate floor. There is interest and concern in the Senate, but I think many of my colleagues, share my view, which is, yes, these are real issues that we need to examine and address, but we need to do it in the right way, and that requires us to study it carefully.
I imagine that TikTok has gone to its users, because how many? 175 million users in the U.S., and just asking them to, plead to their congressman. And apparently there's just thousands of these on TikTok. And some people are saying a lot of people are turning off their phone lines because they don't want to hear from him.
Well, look, first of all, Georgians are welcome to call me in my office about any concerns they have. We will answer the phones. We will hear you out. We want to hear from you. I did hear that calls were pouring in over on the House side and that the app itself was encouraging users to do that. And look, we do have to acknowledge there are a lot of Americans who enjoy and use this app. We want to be sensitive to their free speech concerns and the fact that there are folks who have built businesses associated with using the platform. At the same time, we can't bury our heads in the sand where there may be real national security and privacy issues.
Well, and you can't say it, but I will. So if you're relying on TikTok to feed your family for the rest of your life, you might want to invest in a second career. I mean, not everyone is going to be able to take the glorious ride of the ticking and the talking. Just saying. But the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, who doesn't think it's going anywhere, but then you would look at news and think we're going to World War.
It's crazy.
Like immediately with this TikTok story.
I want to reassure listeners that though this is a controversial issue, I don't think it's one that poses that kind of immediate destabilizing risk. This is really a question of how do we address this complicated question where we have a service that a lot of Americans are using that's susceptible in certain ways to exploitation and influence by a foreign government that doesn't have the best interests of the American people in the United States at heart.
Yeah, one user said, what am I going to do? I'm on the app all day. Well, how about get a life? Well, Senator, since we've got you on the phone, why don't you talk about, I know you're trying to introduce a few bills to help our veterans. Can you speak about that?
Sure. And let me just say, I can't express enough gratitude to all of the service members, military families, and veterans who are tuned in and across the state of Georgia. And one of the things that we're seeing right now is an alarming increase in scams and fraud targeting veterans, so-called claim sharks, who are deceptively advertising to veterans that they will help veterans file claims with the VA and then charging veterans exorbitant and punitive fees associated with those filings. So, the VA is a difficult bureaucracy to navigate, and my office is helping veterans every day to expedite appointments and cut through red tape and just navigate the VA's very difficult phone system. It's way harder than it should be for veterans to file claims and get their benefits. And some bad actors are exploiting that and saying, we'll take care of all that for you. Turns out down the road, the veteran can end up paying that claim shark more money than the value of the benefits they were even filing for. So a group of us are asking the FTC, that's the Federal Trade Commission, to crack down on this exploitive targeting of veterans by claim sharks and make sure that no one's taking advantage of veterans who need help filing claims. And let me just say, if you do need help filing a claim with the VA, you should call me. You should call your congressman. You should call your senator. We're here to do that for you. We don't charge you for it. It's our solemn obligation to help you. It's ossoff.senate.gov whenever we can help you.
That's good to know.
It's just sick. This little dirty corner of the internet where all these people stay that come up with these schemes, like the schemes, and they're preying not only on veterans, but older people who are getting caught up in these just awful phishing schemes. It's just so easy now. I mean, I get an email that says it's from Leslie Fram, Leslie every day, that says, you've got to see this horrible photo, I'm sorry for sending, things like that. It's just, and older people just are susceptible to it. Before we go, because I know you have much busier and more important things to do than talk to us while you're in session at the Senate, what about this whole thing that you're working on that affects military spouses, and especially when they, move around from city to city and getting their life restarted in a new job, and it's just huge fees associated? What's going on with that?
Yeah, this is a big deal. So military spouses, who might be a dentist or a dental hygienist or a hairdresser or a teacher or in any field that requires them to have a license issued by a state. If your spouse who's in uniform is restationed within the United States, so the family picks up and moves, you got to go back to square one on that professional license. And that can be very expensive. So I'm introducing some bipartisan legislation trying to bring Republicans and Democrats together so that the Department of Defense will reimburse military spouses for the cost of having to get those licenses again when they move from one state to the other. We're also trying to work to make it easier for those licenses to be portable. So if you were in one state and you got a license to do your job, we want to try to encourage all of the states to honor your qualifications and certifications that you're bringing when you're moving because your spouse is in the military and you've been restationed.
That would be monumental.
Man, that's important stuff. You're doing some good work, sir. And I know you've been around Atlanta for years. Did you listen to 99X back in the day?
Man, I grew up on 99X. When I saw this morning that I was going to get to go on the air on 99X, this is like a childhood dream. So Thank you for having me.
Who's your favorite band?
Yeah.
You know what's crazy is I actually had dinner a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't say that I am like a lifelong, deep REM fan, but since they are a Georgia band and since 99X back in the day was playing a lot of REM, I had dinner a few weeks ago with their manager and learned, how at UGA the band came together and just shot to international stardom, and still their catalog is playing all over the world all the time. But 99X was a big part of life in the late 90s in Metro Atlanta and remains a big part of life for so many in Metro Atlanta. I'm grateful for the work you do, helping folks enjoy good music and getting good information, and for the chance to join you this morning. And I just want to encourage everybody tuned in. Just reach out to me at ossoff.senate.gov if there's anything that I can do for you. I'm here to help. It's a privilege and an honor to serve and represent Georgia in the Senate.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm going to send you an email because I need you to send me your TV commercial. Kind of missed that for those many years that was on every other 5 minutes. And fight the good fight, Senator Ossoff. Save our cat videos, all right? Get back to work.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Senator John Ossoff. This is the original. It is 99X.